Let us welcome him with a huge round of applause, my dear friends.
Hi everyone. Very thankful for the World Peace University for inviting us to talk here. Today I'm going to explain a little bit more about what we do and what our company does. So we work with this very specific plant called Calotropis. You would have seen it all around India. I'm sure every one of you has encountered this plant. And what we do as a company is we manufacture fabrics out of it. We found out that it has a hollow fiber that is as good as wool that to keep the warmth, and so we found out this is one of the innovative plant that we saw. We were surprised at how much that this plant has been neglected. So we started researching on this plant. Being born in a weavers community textile family, I was naturally destined to work in textile industry for quite a long time. So when I was working in the industry, I was really disappointed what textile industry was doing. So I always had this question of why. What are we doing in this industry, contributing to this most polluting industry? So I really wanted to see a change. Right from the day I was born, I saw chemicals being dumped in my backyard, and I've seen colors are being dyed and dumped into our ecosystem, which in turn damaging our landscapes, and I saw the damage firsthand. So I had to take action on my own. So when I found this plant after 15 years of working in the industry, a moment of spark happened, and I figured out that this could have a very big potential considering the fiber is hollow. So we thought we'll start researching on this plant. At the beginning, it was a very expensive hobby, of course, but the question of why motivated me to go and explore more research on this plant. And then I understood the plant is much more than what I thought. This plant is very much used in Ayurveda. It's one of the medicinal plants that was used in Ayurvedic system of farming, organic farming. And it repels pests. From the research papers that I've read across, written by many scholars on different segments of, let's say one of them were researching on the fibers, another was researching on the repelling abilities of the plant, and the disease control, disease management of the plant, and it repels mosquitoes. So everyone was doing a specific research. What I saw from all these researchers was that there was no inclusive approach to this plant. So what we did was we made sure in our processing of these fibers, we made sure there's no chemicals used, and we made sure that the entire extract becomes as a pest repellent for farmers to replace about quite a lot of pesticides. We right now supply this insect repellent from extracting the fibers to nearly 3,000 farmers, and as a small team of startup, we managed to replace about nearly 80 metric tons of pesticides. To understand this number, for example, in Tamil Nadu, we use about 1,850 metric tons of pesticides every year, putting back into the land. And right now, to get organic food and to make sure our water table is safe and secure, we must replace these pesticides and introduce a new method of organic farming to our farmers to make benefits out of it. So we made sure that this insect repellent is sold at such a cheap price, but very good quality product. For example, farmer is using about 1,000 rupee worth of chemical at a time to spray in his rice farm. You would be hardly spending about 100 rupees, which is very profitable compared to the chemicals. Is financially benefiting out of it. At the same time, he's protecting the ecosystem. He's not going to damage the water table, because we feel as a startup, we felt responsible for the damage that was done already. We need to take steps to change it in whatever way it is possible. Starts with replacing the pesticides. And we always thought about making sure our business model is completely circular, and we made sure there is no waste in our production. So in fact, I would proudly say we are the first textile manufacturing company who's selling the effluent. Most of the textile companies have to pay to clean their effluent. Now we make money out of the effluent. So this plant is called in different names. In North India, it's called as Ark. They make garland for Ganesha also out of the same plant. You would have seen this plant everywhere on the roadside. It's quite a special plant, and it's a Shiva's plant. And none of us have used it so far, and we are the first company to start utilize this plant and completely innovated to a complete sustainable product. And one thing I would always say when you think about innovation and new company, starting a company, thinking about environment is very, very important. That's what was bothering me when I was growing up, born in a textile community, that we are constantly polluting. Considering 90% of the textile 300 years ago was produced in India and it was distributed through Silk Route. And considering that 90% of the world's clothing went from India, and from there we are in 25% now. We basically brought the civilization as we see today. And I'm very proud to have come from the family of weavers who has done this job for nearly 1,000 years. But I'm also ashamed of the fact that we are called the polluters of the world. We must change this, and innovation is everywhere. And so far, I was even surprised until 2017, people have not even noticed this plant. And it is, they've done researches, everyone has put in their part. I would say, I've taken the breadcrumbs from everybody. Everybody, researchers helped me to innovate this in much more better way, because everybody has shown me an insight. Because at the beginning, when I started this research, there wasn't one aspect of this plant. They say, oh, it's very highly toxic, don't go close to this plant. But when I was reading through many research papers, there was a scholar who researched an aspect of this plant that they used 30% of Calotropis, dry Calotropis, as a mixture of food along as a fodder for goats. So that research proved the point that when you dry this plant, the toxicity of the plant degrades, and it is much more safer to be used in the food, the crops and farming sector, where the toxicity can be reduced and degrade in the sunlight. So a lot of these research papers have showed a path for me to figure out how we can do this sustainably and to understand this plant more holistically. And when once we finished inventing the fabric, the another problem was how are we going to do the after processing, like natural dyeing. And we had to figure out a way of how to do our own natural dyes into our process. And natural dyes are mainly made from tannins. And tannins are naturally produced in the plants to repel the insects, because the seeds needs to survive. The weather, the animals, among all the odds, it needs to survive for the future generations to grow. So we had to make sure that all our plant-based dyes are tannin-based dyes, and which are made from kadukai, myrobalan, madder, and katachu, casheas, which are very highly tannin content plants, so that whatever water we are using for the dyeing is also used for the repelling product. So our entire water is 100% sustainable. We have zero waste model. And when the brand started listening to our story, we did not go and approach a lot of brands. The only thing we told when the brands came into our, asking for fabrics, we made sure they're not going to put any chemicals into the fabric. We said, you either do natural or no fabric for you. So we put our standards front, and we said, we're not going to sell our land. Mother Earth is not here for sale. So we have to consider every aspect of our process. We made sure that after process of our fabrics is also 100% chemical free. And it is possible to create a zero impact project, if possible, a positive impactful project, So that's what we thought when we started this project. And, when we started with the fibers, we never thought that our journey would be changing land and free the farmers from pesticide, crutches. A lot of companies, pesticide companies, are forcing the products into the farmer's land and with the expensive pricing. For example, every year cardamom farmers would spend about 1.5 lakhs per acre to get a good yield, just on the pesticides and the spraying. With our help, all these farmers have shifted from cost of 1,50,000 rupees down to 25,000 rupees, which means so much of money you could save. And it's not just about saving money for the farmers, because we are talking about becoming organic India and everything. And where I see how fast we can become organic is by providing these solutions to the people, to the very people who are working for our food and our ecosystem. This is very important. I think that's where the future generations are going to be working on. You're going to be engineers working on agricultural machinery. You're going to be developing designs for agricultural models and many things which is directly connected to the land. And it's very important to make sure that whatever we do will not have a negative impact on our ecosystem. This is very crucial. And coming from the textile industry, I could see that already there is a very high demand growing, considering there is a lot of, demand from the world market on a vegan alternative for wool, considering that, wool is coming from a plant, animal source, and it is very harmful to grow sheep, and it damages the ecosystem. There's a lot of ripple effect when it comes to wool industry. So there is quite a lot of demand growing when it comes to our product. And I see that, Calotropis being a pioneer plant, we don't need water to grow this plant, and there is no need of fence, and there is no need of bore wells even, because if you plant it right on time, it can grow well. So that's what we're working on, establishing this model in the dry lands where we produce the insect repellent and vegan wool and create the market and economy around it, and supply the pest repellent for farmers who are producing food. So it did not come in one single day, this whole model. At the beginning, I was so excited about only the fiber. I was not thinking through the whole project, but I was always envisioning as this has to be a zero waste project, and that was my starting point. And that pivoted me to the moments of doing research with the leftovers of the plant extracts into different farms and trying out different things. My research is never going to end. I don't think it's going to end for next 20, 30 years, because you can see the cotton industry being a $30 billion industry, it never ends evolving. There's always research happening in the field of cotton and so on. Like the same way, being the pioneer plant that it can grow without water, and it can grow without the fence and no bore well. And literally all the farmers would never grow anything on their land without the water. Like basically without water, you can't do any farming. So a possibility of growing all these dry lands and to capture carbon through it, at the same time creating an employment. Because most of the time when they finish this, there is season of, in our country there is like 3 to 5 months of season of farming. We don't do continuous farming in everywhere. So when they finish that farming, and all the farmers go to look out for a job in the cities, which is a shame. Like they don't have resources. Government is trying to create employment in different rural areas and everything, but they're not able to do it. Like your chancellor mentioned, it's not possible for the government alone to create these opportunities. We have to think about like how can we create employment in the times when they don't have. But that's where Calotropis fills in like perfectly, because we have two different fibers from this plant. One is the pot fiber from the month of March. It grows until month of September. Basically in the summer season where farmers never have any kind of job. So they can grow this at that point of time. When the rainy season starts, they can start to process the stem fibers, which also provides another kind of fiber. So with this one specific plant, we can provide the job until they start the rabi crop or kharif crop, the 3-month to 5-month crop that they're planting. So with this, farmers can work all throughout the year for 12 months compared to what they're doing right now for 3 months. So this really excited us. The potential of this plant and the investment, it doesn't require much, to do this entire, process in each district, that it can provide pest repellent for the communities where they're growing food from the dry regions. So it feels like a complete fit. When we started this project, there were a lot of challenges. Obviously, when you start something new, there's going to be challenges. And without a challenge, life won't be interesting. And when you start your life over here as the first years, it would be fun. We just finished our schools. We're entering into the college. Let's have some fun. There comes the serious life. Kicks in after the 3rd year to 4th year, You'll come to the reality of life, where you'll have to figure out something, figure out your resources. But what I find, like meetings and programs like this will give you a limelight of will probably give you a slightest of spark, probably, to figure out what you want to do in your life. And attitude is very important. Whatever you do it with the right attitude, and you'll get to places. And don't think about failures is going to drown you down. Failures are the stepping stones, and every failure is a step to another success in your life. Just be happy and be curious and ask a lot of questions. It's very important. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much.